completely, like, I'll do this, you know, I when I have conversations with my clients, they'll be talking to me about their ex and they're like, well, if it was just like this and if it was just like that, then it would be perfect. And I'm like, so you want them to be a completely different person and it would be perfect. Am I getting this right? And they just, they do exactly what you do because they're like, oh my gosh, you're right. I'm expecting them to be a completely different person. And I go, if someone else expected you to be a completely different person, is it fair? Like, no. Like, so you've been in this relationship with someone who, and again, it's not to fault them, but this is, again, that awareness piece that we talk about. You've been in a relationship with someone who you've made to be a completely different person in your head than who they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You're listening to the First Class Life Show hosted by Lindsey Vertner, a holistic personal development show for high-achieving leaders who desire to maximize their impact while creating a life full of purpose, fulfillment, and happiness. So grab a drink, grab your notebook, and let's get started. Hey, First Class family. Welcome back to another episode of the First Class Life Show. I am your host, Lindsey Vertner, mindset expert and professional speaker. And today we have the breakup recovery coach, Miss Tal Yardeni, with us. Okay, listen, before we hop into the conversation, let me remind you to make sure you share and subscribe, like, love, comment, review, do all the things for this podcast, okay? Because sharing is caring. And believe it or not everybody knows about this show. What? I know. We ain't gonna fault them. What we're gonna do is we're gonna share, okay? That's how your internet currency comes into play, the subscribing, liking, comment, doing all of those things. And make sure you tag us when you share your insights because we want to engage in the conversation with you, okay? So I know that you are out there maximizing your impact while creating your first class life full of purpose, fulfillment, and happiness. So you don't have any time to waste, my darling. And I understand that. So let's hop right into this conversation. Welcome, Tal. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me, Lindsey. I'm so excited to talk to you.
Yes, I am excited to get into all of the things. But before we dive into that, I need you to share with the First Class family, who is Tal Yardeni for real? Give us the good, juicy cliff notes of Tal's life.
Yes, you got it. So I spent 13 years in New York City as a singer and actress pre-pandemic. And during that time, it was a very exciting life. And I also had a lot of hot mess express relationships. And so during the pandemic, I was able to reflect back on that and do some deep healing. And during that time, I was like, okay, I've learned the lessons. I see what I need to take from this. And now I think this would be super useful for other women going through the same stuff because we tend to feel so alone when we're going through something like this, but it's so common. And the things that we think we're failing at, we're making mistakes, like what I had learned through studying and my journey with all of this. It's so many women who are high achievers, so many women who are doing the damn thing struggle with this one area of their life.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that is true. Now, it's so funny that we're talking about this because I was having a conversation just a couple of days ago about, our relationship patterns and where we learn them from and things like that. So I'm sure we're going to dive deeper into what that looked like for you. But first, I want to take a moment to go back.
Yeah.
How was your relationship as far as your parents, the relationship between your parents, your relationship with your parents and or caregivers? Because we know that not everybody was raised with a mom and dad in the home. And there's lots of different ways that a child can be raised up. So for you specifically, how was that dynamic? Kind of a two-part question. One, between your parents, your caregivers, and then two, between you and your parents.
Mm-hmm. So, good question. I grew up in a Middle Eastern family. So I was born in Israel. So, if you know anything about Middle Eastern culture, they are very passionate, hot-headed people. And I grew up though in the States. So it's specifically Key West, which is like island life. Everything's really slow. Everything's really calm. Nobody seems to be stressed. And, our culture is a little bit more high strung. So the dichotomy of that was very interesting to grow up in. And so it definitely affected my relationship with my parents because they really wanted to instill the culture and the traditions. And I really wanted to just be like every other person growing up, just really wanted to be like an American. So I was kind of going against the grain of what was expected of me. So obviously we bumped heads. My relationship now, like with my mother, is amazing. And I always loved her growing up, but she grew up a very different way than me. And so she was trying to pass down what she knew. So she's doing the best that she could with what she had. But I was just wanting to be like every other person. Like, don't send me to school with hummus and pita. Like, I just want to have the macaroni and cheese. You know what I mean? And so
and the thing is, hummus and pita is so popular.
So trendy, right? Exactly. Now every kid's being sent to school with hummus and pita and probably like a green juice or something, So yeah. And then, their relationship, like they were super young. So I feel like, again, doing the best that they could with what they had. And that's how I'm able to see it now. Then I was like, oh my gosh, like I feel like, we're always on the verge of an argument, or there's always like, what is the next thing that's going to happen? So the house felt a bit unsettled, but looking at it now, it's like they were just trying to adapt as well. They were trying to adapt to a culture that was so foreign to them, learning English because they didn't know it at the time when they came over to the States. So it was like so many things to wrap their heads around, but you don't have that kind of, I wouldn't say that at the time, like I could recognize all of those things, but now doing what I do, I'm able to look back and in retrospect, I'm like, oh, it all makes sense.
Yeah. So what relationship dynamics would you say that you learned from observing your parents?
Yeah. So the relationship dynamics,
whether intentionally or not intentionally.
Yeah. So I felt like love was something that you had to really earn, and almost that you had to be performative, and through that you would earn love. And so I could see that playing out in the dynamics in my relationships, because I would end up with partners who were very emotionally unavailable. So I always felt like I needed to do more. I needed to prove myself. Because when I did, then I would receive that attention. And so it was always like seeking that validation. I realized that was happening to me, when I was a child. And like, this is not to villainize my parents or anything like that. But yeah, I do remember that. And then being able to draw the correlation going, oh shoot, like I'm doing this now in my adult life.
Yeah. So what tips would you share with the first class family to help them identify their own beliefs around relationships?
Yeah. So especially if, whether you're in a relationship now or you have gone through a breakup and you really think about what was it that was missing in that relationship? Like, what was it? What was the thing that you so badly wanted that you weren't getting? And then think about that. When was the time as a child when the same type of situation happened? This thing that you really wanted that you couldn't get, whether it was you wanting to feel safe, you wanting to feel heard, you wanting to feel seen, whatever that was. And you'll be able to very quickly identify like, oh my gosh, I remember like when I was, like when I'm working with my clients, like when I was 5, when I was 6, when I was 7, when I was 8. And it's not that we need to do all of this, deep inventory and just stay there, but we do need to have that awareness, because if you don't even have the awareness of why we're doing what we're doing, it's just going to keep playing out in your life.
Are you loving the First Class Live Show? Then join our private Patreon community. Not only will you help to support our ability to provide you with great content, but you can also get exclusive perks like bonus videos and resources, discounts, episode transcripts, and more. So what are you waiting for? Join today at patreon.com/firstclasslife. Again, that's Patreon, Patreon.com first class life. Yeah, I know we talk about that a lot when in the work that I do as a mindset expert is like, you got to find where the cycle started. And
Yeah.
usually it started with the people around you and your upbringing, and then you took on that cycle in some form or fashion. And so identify like the root cause of that cycle and how it plays out in your life. Like you said, that first step is awareness. And
Mm-hmm.
then once you become aware, what is the next step that we take?
So first step is awareness. And then you have to identify, well, awareness and then acceptance. Because what happens is that we tend to have the awareness and then we shame ourselves for doing the thing. But if this was never modeled to you, if this was never shown to you, no one gives us a course or a program or, growing up on how to do relationships, right? It's so freaking important. Actually, I think it should be taught in every school. I think it would change the world. But no one's giving us that. No one's giving us the manual, right? So there's so much shame that goes into it. So then we have to have the acceptance. And then from there, you decide something needs to change. What needs to change? And then you can actually start to heal from there. But if you're staying in the shaming and blaming yourself, it's really hard for anything to change.
So what advice would you share that can help us to move away from that shame and blame? Because like you said, we've all been there.
Mm-hmm.
Most of us have experienced one, if not multiple heartbreaks throughout our lifetimes. And that is a common emotion to deal with. Like, oh my gosh, how did I end up in this relationship? Or,
Right.
oh my gosh, like, how could I be so stupid? Or,
Right.
oh my gosh, I must not be good enough. Or, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me that I can't make this work? Especially if like you've had a series of breakups, like back to back to back from one person to another. So how can we begin to break away from those feelings of shame and guilt and those negative emotions that we place upon ourselves?
First of all, thank you for saying all of those statements because it's what I hear women say all day long. And I remember asking those things. It was all about what was I doing wrong? Why didn't I, why wasn't I deserving? All of that stuff. And so basically what it comes down to, what I experienced, that it's really about self-worth, is that that's the work, is that you really start to understand how important your needs are, how important your feelings are, and finding ways to give it to yourself. That's how the healing work begins. Instead of the, I must not be good enough, I'm not enough, I'm this, I'm that. It's to really start to treat yourself the way that you would, I always say this, you want to be able to speak to yourself the way that you would a child, the way that you would someone that you love, right? With that kindness and compassion. We give it so freely to other people, but when it comes to ourselves, oh my gosh, we're our own worst enemy, right? Like the stuff that goes on in our heads, oh my gosh, if you ever said that out loud to someone else, you would have zero friends. You know what I
mean? Mm-hmm. Now listen, we're not talking about the ones that do intentionally say all these things and talk crazy to kids and talk crazy to everybody. We're not talking about them. They probably wouldn't even select this show to listen to or watch anyway, okay? We're talking about you. We know that you would not say crazy things to kids and other people, but that is so true. Sometimes I will say, like, if your friends talk to you the way that you talk to you, would you still be friends with them? Because we know from research that most of our thoughts are negative and most of our thoughts are repetitive as well. So if we're constantly in this state of repeating negative thoughts to ourselves, like, we start to take on those beliefs, and those beliefs impact our behaviors and how we show up in the world, how we show up in our relationships, whether platonic or intimate, and all of the things.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because you think that you're just healing one area of your life, but everything you do affects every aspect of your life. So you're over here thinking you're healing a breakup, but when you're really doing that deep healing work and you're like, okay, I see how I've been operating for most of my life. I've been speaking to myself like I am my own worst enemy, and I want that dynamic to change. Now you start to shift that. You don't think that's going to affect other areas of your life? It absolutely does, right? It permeates into every aspect of your life because you are the common denominator in all of this.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Common denominator for sure, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say are various ways that we can begin to grow that self-worth?
Yeah. So one, like I said, how do you speak to yourself? And really start to become the observer of your thoughts. And what does that mean? That means that we don't just buy into every thought that comes through. We start to question that, right? When that thought comes up that, oh, it must be my fault that that relationship didn't work out. Instead of buying into that and going down that rabbit hole, start to question that, sit with that, pause. Is that absolutely true? Is that absolutely true that it must have been my fault? No, it doesn't mean that we don't take responsibility in our lives. But instead of just buying into the thoughts so quickly, it's really to start to question it. Because what happens is you'll start to go, no, like I came to the table open-hearted. I did X, Y, and Z. Like I wanted this to work. And that'll start to shift. It'll start to, your thoughts in your head will start to soften. 2, no needs to become your favorite word. It needs to become your favorite word. Why am I saying that? Because boundaries, people, boundaries. Again, no one's teaching us this. So we think that if someone asks something of us, we must always be available to other people. But there are times where we have said yes to someone at the expense of ourselves. And that's the thing, is when you're cultivating self-love, you need to understand your needs are just as important as the other person's. So if in your body, it's like such a definite no, but you're speaking yes, you're abandoning yourself. So we got to get used to saying no. And it's not that we're just going to you're just saying no to say no. But we just got to you know what I mean? It's like, you want to go to the mall? No, it's like I'm saying this about things that, in your body, you feel like, oof, like I don't feel comfortable. I don't want to do that thing. I'm too tired. I have too much on my plate, whatever it is, but we're still like, yeah, sure. We'll get it. We'll do it for you. But it's at the expense of yourself.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, because whenever we're constantly in the pattern of doing that, what we end up doing is telling our subconscious that we aren't worthy to prioritize our own needs, which only further feeds into that feeling of not being worthy or not being lovable or valuable or good enough or whatever it is that you're telling yourself. And that shows up in our behaviors even more. So then we try even more. Yes, I can do it, because now I'm trying to prove that, wait, I am worthy. So let me say yes, because then this person will validate my worth by me saying yes to them, even though I know it's going to have a negative backlash on me. So with that said, sometimes we can get so busy doing all of the things and trying to please all of the people and live up to all of the titles, especially as high achieving leaders,
Right.
that sometimes we don't even know what it is that we want. So in that case, what would you suggest in helping us to identify, like, wait, what do I really want even?
Yeah. So I think behind the what do I want is really how do I want to feel, right? Because all of the things, if you think about things that you want in your life, it's really about what is the feeling behind it. So if you can't identify exactly what it is that you want in your life, you can absolutely identify how you want to feel. Do you want peace? Do you want joy? What is it that you want? Freedom? You know what I mean? People that say, I want $10 million, it's because you want the freedom behind it. Like what does that $10 million mean to you? If you want a loving relationship, why? What is behind that? And that's actually really important, right? Because if you want the loving relationship because you think that person is going to complete you, halt. Do not go further. Okay? Because we're going to keep repeating the same thing. And I don't want that for you because I've been you. I know. But if you want that loving relationship because you're like, I know I'm the bomb.com and I want to meet another person that's the bomb.com and I want to grow together and I want to experience life together and adventure. Wow.
Listen, whenever we're in that space where it's like, I want this person so I could be complete, that is like a disaster in the making, like just waiting to
Yeah.
happen. I mean, because obviously just the human experience is a lifelong journey of growth and development. So let's put that on the table. However, ideally, when you're entering into a relationship, you want to be as whole as possible, standing on your own. Not that you don't have things you need to heal and grow and work on, because like I said, it's a lifelong journey, as long
Right.
as we're breathing. But
Right.
you want to be as whole as possible for yourself and attract someone else that is also as whole as possible. Because when you have two broken people coming together, like you're only creating a bigger broken system.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why these relationships don't work out. And listen, I can't fault people because look at society. Look at the movies that we've grown up with. Listen to the music. Listen to the words. I mean, everything that has been shown to us that we've been taught is so backwards from what it really means to be in a healthy relationship, right? Jerry Maguire, that famous line, "You complete me." What? No.
Yeah.
No. No, no, no.
No, right. I agree because, geez Louise, we have to think about all of these things and, that perfect, air quotes, perfect match, so to speak. Both of you are still going to have areas where you're meant to complement one another, not complete one another.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the key factor. You want to look for like the complementary relationship, not the completing relationship.
Absolutely. You want someone to add to your life. You don't need someone to be your life, right? And the difference is be your life, like be everything for me. I need you to check all the boxes in all of these areas. First of all, it's so much pressure to put on someone and they're going to fail because we're human beings and we're going to mess up, right? So like, oh my gosh, like let's not do it. And I've done this to people. I need you to be this for me. I need you to be that for me. I need you to be, it's like, who can be this person? Right? But when you're adding to my life, that's so exciting because if you like love your life and you love what you're about and you're doing the thing and you're not waiting until you're in a relationship to do these things that you have set out for yourself or that things that you aspire to be or do, it's going to be such a different relationship. And it doesn't mean that there's not going to be, things that trigger you. Of course, you're going to get triggered in relationship, but when you're with someone who is emotionally mature, you will be able to navigate that together. It will be a conversation. You won't be scared to show up. You won't be scared to voice your feelings because you'll have someone on the opposite end of you who is able to receive that.
Looking for amazing products to help boost your first class lifestyle? Then head over to firstclasslifeshop.com, where you can treat yourself to personal development books and workbooks, lifestyle affirmation cards, adult coloring books, mugs, notebooks, hoodies, t-shirts, leggings, and more. All products were designed to help you master your mindset, walk in your purpose, and live your first class life because you deserve it. So treat yourself today at firstclasslifeshop.com. Again, that's firstclasslifeshop.com. Yes, that is so good. Now, I want to ask you this question. So, two things. One, we're in a healthy relationship, we talk things out, we grow, we communicate effectively. We're both bringing our best selves. We're not in that completion relationship. We're in the complementary relationship.
Yeah.
One, tell us how that impacts us and how we show up in the world. And then two, compare that to when we are in that toxic negative relationship, how that impacts us. Because like we said, everything is all mushed together. It's like one big jar of potpourri of different parts of our lives. We like to think that, oh, this is not affecting this. But in reality, it does. Like everything affects everything. And we can't neatly put things in a box and put it on a shelf until we want to deal with it. That's not how life works. It shows up subconsciously in our beliefs, our behaviors, and all of those things. So compare the two. Like when I'm in a healthy, loving relationship, yes, there are going to be struggles. Like we said, we're only human. But essentially, when I'm in a healthy, loving relationship, how that impacts my ability to show up as a leader versus when I'm in a toxic, negative, we're in this to complete one another type of relationship, how that impacts my ability. to show up or not show up.
Yeah. So I'll start with the negative. So when you're in a relationship where you feel like I am with you for you to complete me, I am with you because there is something missing in my life that I think you're going to give me. Usually these relationships become tumultuous. You feel unfulfilled and or they're toxic. So what does that do to a person? That's going to drain you completely. And if you are a person who is running a business, you are managing other people, whatever your work title is, how can you fully show up when you are so drained emotionally and physically? There's no way to show up as your best self because this relationship is taking so much emotional space. So to be like, okay, I'm going to compartmentalize this. No, the relationship is a big part of your life. So there's no way to pretend that it's not happening when you're working. It doesn't mean that you can't work. I mean, listen, I lived in New York for 13 years as a singer actress. I did what I needed to do. But did it make it that much harder for me to do my day to day? Yeah, it did, because I was waking up so drained. The swirling questions. How do I fix this? How do I fix? Why is it like this? Why aren't they able to give, all these things that were just taking up space, as opposed to being in a healthy relationship. There's trust, there's safety, there's security. So I don't need to have all that chatter in my head, these questions about, well, maybe I approach this, maybe I don't approach this. What do I do if they say this? What happens? Why did it happen that way? Why does this continue to happen? Because we're having healthy conversations. Doesn't mean that there's not going to be conflict, doesn't mean that there's not going to be arguments, but the common goal is that we both want to get to the other side together. We're not against each other. And so I can fully show up in my job well rested, because I know that relationship, even if there's something that's not quite right, I am so confident that we'll be able to resolve it, that we'll be able to figure it out, because I look at my partner and they've given me such compassion and grace that I feel safe in that relationship.
Trust, safety, and security are components of a healthy relationship. I truly, truly love that. And, it makes me reflect on my own marriage. We've been married almost 14 years together, even longer than that. And,
I love that.
Thank you. A lot of times, especially with society in today's world, it's all about, the big proposal and the big wedding and, or, the fancy. And so many people are getting divorced and all of those things. And on the one hand, we do have the side where, okay, people are understanding more that, like, I don't have to put up with this type of thing or stick in an abusive relationship or anything like that. And so we're getting a divorce. So, I mean, there's that piece of it, but then there's also, this isn't working. Let's get a divorce. Let me try the next one. And so, like, we aren't taking marriage as seriously for some of us, I will say. Aren't taking marriage as seriously. And so we're treating it like serial dating. And so we've been married and divorced 15 times, right?
Right.
And what I'm saying all that to say is, like, marriage is a working verb. And reflecting in my own marriage, I can think back, like, if there were things that I would have healed prior to entering the relationship, even before we got married, like, that would have saved us so many struggles, because I was healing that as I went. And as we said, it's a lifelong journey, but there were things that I literally hadn't done any work on healing, and it showed up as triggers in my relationship, in my marriage. And he had those same things that showed up as triggers for him. So we both have these triggers that we are like, where is this coming from? And then it's causing a problem. It's like, if I would have taken the time to heal myself as a standalone person before entering into that relationship, I would have saved us so much work. And during some of those more times of struggle, I can think how it impacted me, as far as, like, my mood was a little more irritable. Like, I was still positive, perky, but a little more irritable, a little more snappy than I would be, a little less patient than I would normally be. And it's like, wait, that's not my natural personality. So I had to recognize that whenever I'm having an issue or struggle with my husband, whenever we're in a moment of arguing, that it impacts me elsewhere because of that irritability, or I'm not as creative as I would be if my mind was clear because I'm so stressed about this. Now it's time to sit down and do the work or do something. And it's like, ugh, I don't got the brain capacity to think.
Right. Yeah. Again, it takes an emotional toll. And it's not to say that, people don't argue in relationships, right? I question the relationship if you're not having disagreements and arguments. What kind of, we're not going deep. Like, what is it a super, is this a superficial, just let's have fun relationship? Or are you actually really seeing each other and allowing yourself, if there's no vulnerability in a relationship, in my opinion, it's not a relationship. So of course you're going to there's going to be friction. You're going to brush up against things, but will you be better equipped if you have tools? Yeah, absolutely. It's not about being 1,000% healed before you enter a relationship, but it is really looking at those, again, like we were talking about before, those patterns that keep showing up and healing that part so that when you are in a relationship with someone, this is not playing itself out again and again and again. There might be different issues, but you'll be able to go through them. Yeah, but you'll be able to go through them.
And course correct a lot faster. And you'd be able to identify them a lot quicker and course correct a lot quicker because relationships are working verbs. Like you're constantly working on making it a healthy relationship. It's not something you just do in the first month and then you're good to go.
Right.
And then if for those that decide to get married, like marriage, that's a working verb times 100 because then you have all these other components attached to it. And so, this is such a good conversation. We've talked about so many different facets of relationships and how they play out. And so I want to go back to what you mentioned about that trust, safety, and security piece. And in thinking globally, not just intimate relationships, but also platonic relationships, what are some ways that we can begin to build trust, safety, and security, whether it's with our significant other or whether it's with our client or our coworker or, our family in general?
Yeah. Well, first you build it within yourself, because when you build it within yourself, then it'll be very easy for you to be able to ask for what you need in order to feel safe or to create the space that you need in order to feel safe, right? But if we don't even trust ourselves, if we don't even know what that feels like for us to be safe and secure, if we don't even know that about ourselves, how can we ask that of anybody else? So again, it always begins with us. Because when I trust myself and I trust what's coming up for me, because what would happen early on for me, like when I was thinking about previous relationships, is that I get a little nudge about something about somebody, like something's not quite right here, but I wouldn't trust it. And it was always spot on. Like a woman's intuition is nuts. Like, oh my God, right? Like a woman's intuition, like we know, but we don't want to know what we know, right? So we just like, no, there's no proof in front of me. It's fine. And then we have to wait for like the house to be on fire to go, oh my gosh, yeah, I remember feeling like that there was something not quite right, but I needed to see it through to believe. Right? Right. So, but if I can start to trust that, first of all, my feelings are valid. My requests are not too much. My needs are important. I can trust that about myself. It'll be very easy for me, whether I'm with a client, whether I'm at a meeting, whether it is a romantic relationship, whether it's a friendship, to state my requests. Now, does that mean that everyone's going to meet us there? No, but it'll be very easy for me in a very loving way because I know this is for the greater good. It's not just about what I need, but I know like when I'm living in integrity, like I'm living in my light, that's only going to affect, if you want to think really big, the world in a positive way. If I'm abandoning myself, I'm dimming my light. That's not helpful, right? If I'm playing small, I'm going to pretend to be okay with things that I'm not okay with, all of that, I'm dimming my light. And we want to be, if you want to affect change, you want to be the light. Because then people are going to look at you and going to go, I want what she's having.
Hey, I know it can be exhausting blazing the trail and creating a legacy. And you're at the point in your life where you desire peace and rest. You want to enjoy both the physical freedom and financial freedom to live life on your terms. You understand the importance of prioritizing your self-care. And you know that you're worthy of transformational experiences surrounded by other high-achieving, goal-oriented women just like you. That's why you deserve to be treated like VIP at the First Class Life Luxury Self-Care Retreat for Women. You deserve to show up and just be you. Away from the titles and roles that keep you busy from day to day. You deserve the luxury to fully unplug. It's time for you to embrace your first class life. Visit firstclassliferetreats.com to secure your VIP spot today, because you deserve it. I want what she's having.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly that. Really not ignoring those red flags. And it makes me think about, I'm sure we've heard the saying, like, when someone shows you their true colors, believe them.
Right.
And I usually take that saying, that phrase, and extend it out to what happens is that someone shows us their true colors. And if we think about a painter and a canvas and someone painting, they show us their true colors. So they painted the picture for us. And instead of trusting ourselves and trusting that intuition of who they're showing us that they are, we do a couple things. One, we say, oh no, they're not going to be like that with me, because I'm this super phenomenal person that can change the world and change everyone, right?
I'm going to fix them.
Change the world, but listen, you can only change yourself, can't change other people. So like, we believe that we can change them, right? They're not going to be that way with me. Or we believe like, well, there was something that I did that caused them to act this way. That's also false. And what we do is we will take our own metaphorical paint and we will start to paint. Paint how we think things should go, and then they end up not living up to those expectations. And we paint some more, and we paint some more, and we paint some more, and we keep painting over what they've already shown their colors to be. And eventually, what happens if you just keep adding paint, keep adding colors, and keep mixing things? You just end up with like a mess of a picture that probably looks like a black, gray, brown blob, right? And so it's like, stop trying to repaint the picture that they showed you.
Absolutely. I agree with everything that you just said, because it's so true. People show us who they are, but what happens is we've already projected a future in our head of what this could be. And now this person is showing us something that like, ooh, like this, like we're not going to get that future. But I've already in my head, like I'm already seeing how I want things to be. So I'm sure that I can finagle this. It is so hard to change, right? We have to be intentional about the change, and no one is changing for another person. People are changing for themselves, and they're doing it when they feel, usually when you hit rock bottom. That's when change occurs. Change isn't occurring when things are hunky-dory and wonderful in your life. No one's going, I think I'd really like to do some really deep inner work when things are going. No, it comes from a place of like, I can't continue this way anymore. So if you know how hard that is for yourself to expect someone else to just like be a completely, like I'll do this, I when I have conversations with my clients, they'll be talking to me about their ex and they're like, well, if it was just like this and if it was just like that, then it would be perfect. And I'm like, so you want them to be a completely different person and it would be perfect. Am I getting this right? And they just, they do exactly what you do, because they're like, oh my gosh, you're right. I'm expecting them to be a completely different person. And I go, can you, if someone else expected you to be a completely different person, is it fair? Like, no. Like, so you've been in this relationship with someone who, and again, it's not to fault them, but this is, again, that awareness piece that we talk about. You've been in a relationship with someone who you've made to be a completely different person in your head than who they are.
Yeah, it makes me think of a previous conversation that I had, and he was sharing that he doesn't give any expectations to anyone. If anything, he thinks the absolutely worst, and not in a negative, pessimistic kind of way. But what he does is I give you 0 and start you at the very rock bottom anytime I meet someone new. And then what I do from there is I allow you to show me who you are. I allow you to paint the picture with me just having a blank canvas. So I'm not expecting anything from you. I'm not doing anything in regards to how I think you should be, but I'm allowing you first the chance to show me who you are. And then I navigate from there after you've done that. And I was like, okay, well, that is a great way to think. Because what do we do as humans? We do the opposite. And it's crazy because when you hear that, you automatically think, oh, well, he's just not trusting of everybody or anything like that. And the way he said it, much more eloquently than I did, but the way he said it, he didn't paint that type of situation at all, because there's a difference between doing what he did and doing like not trusting anybody and like, oh no, I'm in this world by myself. Like not, that's a different space than where he was coming from. And I was like, it actually makes a lot of sense. Very counterintuitive, but makes a lot of sense, because what do? We meet someone, and like you said, we instantly create this vision of how our relationship will play out, whether intimate or platonic again. And then we have these expectations. Okay, I met this person. We're going to get married. We're going to have these kids. We're going to build this wealth. Or I met this person at this networking meeting and we're going to be business partners and we're going to do this and they're going to help me with this and we're going to grow like this. Like, it doesn't matter what area we meet people, and we create this vision and we create these expectations. And then we get mad when they don't live up to it in the way that we painted it, instead of allowing them to like give some input.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, the extension of this conversation is, and I would love to have this conversation with this person, because I'm wondering if when he was saying this, have 0 expectations, because I say the opposite, but it's not in the way of the expectation of making sure those people, it's about when I know my values and my needs and like my non-negotiables, I can come into any relationship. Those are like, my non-negotiables are firm. I don't bend on those. There's no like gummy there. It's like cemented. Like, these are my non-negotiables. And I allow you to be who you are. And if there are things like these red flags, I'm like, oop, this is not in line with my values. This is not in line with my non-negotiables. It's a no. I don't need to change you. I can send you off with love. And for someone else, that you might be a great fit. But I'm able to stand in my worth, knowing the things that are important to me and what I deserve. So I actually love that, because that's like, let's say if you're going into a date, the 0 expectations is, I know what it is I want. It's not an interview, and I'm not going to see if you fit in every piece, because there's no way to know that on date 1, but I know what's important to me, and I'm unapologetic about it. And so let's be curious about one another and see. And so if you're saying certain things to me, like, I know that I want to be in a serious monogamous relationship, and you're telling me like, I'm just really having fun right now and I don't really know like where I want things to go. That's information for me, and I can send you away with love. We don't need to continue. I need to try to convince you to get into, the same mindset. I need to try to convince you that like a monogamous serious relationship is what's for you. You've just clearly told me this is what you're into. Right. And same thing goes if like you're in a business and you're looking for someone who's really good at graphics and blah, 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 and you want to hire them on, and they come to the interview and you're like, I really want someone who can like make these graphics pop. And they're like, yeah, graphics aren't really my thing. That doesn't make them a bad person, but they're not getting the job, because I'm looking for a person who's really good at graphics. Right? So I'm not going to try, I'm not going to be like, okay, great, I'm going to hire you and I'm going to make you take a course on graphics. And then, let's see how things go. And then you're going to figure it out. No, like I need someone who knows how to do graphics now, like yesterday, actually.
That is so good, because one, oftentimes we come across people, I'm sure you're aware of this, being a coach as well, that most people don't even know what their values are. So I'm going to come back to that in just a moment. But playing on that, hiring somebody, we often do that in the business corporate world. We have this need in a position or in a role or whatever it is, and then we hire the person like, oh, I really like you, like, let me hire you in, and now I need you to do all these things. And then we get frustrated because they aren't living up to the needs that you had. And it's like, okay, now I got to fire you or demote you, or our relationship is starting to tear because I'm trying to fit you into this square when you're a triangle. Right. Instead, for those of us that are in the corporate world, have to do hiring of any sort, whether for an employer or for your own self. Instead, it's more like, take the person out of it for a moment and first identify your needs. Like, what do you need in this role? And then find somebody that has a strength in that need and hire for the need. Don't hire for the person. Because now it's like, oh, I need graphics done. Let me hire a graphic specialist, somebody that specializes in graphics. And you can even go deeper, like maybe a special type of graphics. Let's say there's category A, B, C. I need somebody that specializes in category B. Okay, you specialize in category A, you're not for me. Oh, you specialize in category B, come on in. Let's make this thing work. And so there's that piece, and it overlaps to intimate relationships, like you said, knowing your values, because again, it's that thing. It's the hiring process for our love life.
Exactly.
These are the things that I'm looking for in a relationship. You aren't fitting those things.
No.
You want to be fun and mingle. I want monogamy and, think about a future.
Right.
We don't mesh. So I say all that to say, what advice would you share to help us identify our values, in general, in a relationship? Because like I said, most people don't even know what their values are. So they go into these relationships, again, intimate or platonic, and they ignore the red flags because, again, it goes back to that piece, not even knowing what they want. But if you don't know what your values are and what you stand against, then it's hard to make that connection, like, oh, this is why it's not working, because you go against my values.
Right.
So,
Yeah. So I would say, look at your last 3 relationships and identify what you weren't getting and really take inventory. Like, what wasn't I getting that was so important to me that I really felt was necessary for this relationship to thrive? Okay. So if you were in a relationship where you were cheated on, trust is probably a big one for you, which that seems like a non-negotiable in relationships. You'd be surprised. And then, and so then you just have to look at different areas of one. Communication is a huge one. That's a big one for me. For me, like if you cannot sit and communicate to me what is going on and I have to become a detective and try to figure you out, I'm already exhausted. I'm done. Like, I can't do it. Because I did that for so long and so many of my and I'm really good at communicating my feelings. And so I'm not expecting everyone to communicate the way that I do, but I expect you to be an emotionally mature adult who can come to the table. And if I've done something to upset you in a very loving way, you can express, like, Tal, when this X, Y, and Z happened, it made me feel this way. And I'd be more than happy to discuss it with you, apologize if necessary, and all of that. But if communication, if you're communicatively inept, there's no way to go. Did I just is that a term I just came up with? Communicatively inept? I don't know, but I kind of like it.
We pick up words all the time. Yes, we love it.
So, you look at what, and then also, excuse me, also look at, if the relationship, not every relationship in your past has been a toxic relationship. It was just that's where the journey needed to end. So also, if there were good things in the relationship, look at what were those things that I absolutely loved. So when I think back to one of my relationships that didn't work out, there were many things that were not okay. But the one thing I loved was my ex's adventurous spirit. She's always up to doing things with me and would be very excited. We could be doing the most to someone else, it would feel really mundane, but to us, it was really exciting. And so everything we did felt like it just felt fun. And so that's something that's really important to me in my next relationship.
That is good. That is good. We really have to do that reflection process. And I know sometimes we don't want to sit there and think, but it helps us in the long run when we are growing our ability to be more self-aware and not only take accountability for our own actions, because again, none of us are perfect. So we have our faults as well, but understanding that piece and then understanding, okay, what was missing? What were the main struggles? What went well? What didn't? And all of those things. So thank you. Listen, Tal.
My pleasure. I've loved this conversation with you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, are you up for a game?
Sure.
Don't worry, it's not the love connection. It's not a blind date.
I'm like, should I be saying yes right now?
Behind number 2, we have suitor number 1. Just kidding. Or am I?
Uh-oh.
So it is called First Class Favorite Things. And this is how it works. Really, really simple. I'm going to ask you, what is your favorite fill in the blank? And you're going to fill in the blank.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
But you only have 10 seconds to answer, okay?
Oh, goodness.
Dun, dun, dun. I just pulled up my
Oh, my God. There's a timer. The pressure's on. Oof. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
What's the TikTok sound? The pressure is getting worse. So, okay, we'll start with something easy. But before we get started, you have to think of a consequence, because if you miss the buzzer, there's a consequence. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I have to tell you like an embarrassing
Whatever
story or
you
something. Okay.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay.
So,
all right. Gosh.
Oh, yeah. We'll start with something easy. What is your favorite season of the year? Go.
Oh, I love fall. Fall's great.
See?
Yeah, we don't have fall in Florida, but in New York we had fall. We don't have seasons in Florida.
What's your favorite thing about fall?
What's my favorite thing about fall? This is going to sound so basic, but I love apple picking. I just love it. Like going out, picking some apples and being amongst the leaves. It's my jam.
What's your favorite apple?
Gala.
Okay.
I like me a gala.
Okay, we can still be friends, Tal. We can.
We've been agreeing so much. Okay, I won't judge you.
Mm-hmm. I need to take stock in Honeycrisp because look, I had one right before this interview. I probably eat I don't know how many apples in a year because like that's my top 3 go-to snack is apple slices, mostly with peanut butter, sometimes with caramel or fruit dip or yogurt, just kind of depending on the mood. But 75% of the time it's with peanut butter. I'll make my apple slices, dip it in peanut butter.
It's such a satisfying
and that's like my snack.
I'm into it. Satisfying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I have 1 apple left. And so I need to go to the store because I ate it for lunch and I'm probably going to come around midnight like, some apples. Okay. So next one is, what is your favorite book, title, and author? Go.
Ooh. All the Light We Cannot See. And the name of the author, oh gosh, I can't remember the name of the author, but it's such a good book and it won a Pulitzer Prize like a few years ago. I can't remember the name of the author, but All the Light We Cannot See. Thank you, technology.
You just asked Google.
All the Light We Cannot See is a 2014 war novel that was written by American author Anthony Doerr.
Sound right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's so good. It's so good.
Coming in for the win.
Yeah.
Okay, next one is, what is your favorite song, title, and artist? Go.
Ooh, Shaka Khan. It's oh my gosh, I only have 10 seconds. Ain't nobody.
Sing it.
Love me back.
Okay.
Yep. Make me happy. Yep. Chaka Khan all the way. It's like
Make
such a
me
good
feel this way.
this way. Yes. Yes. It's like such a good, honestly, it's like my pick me up song and it never gets old.
I never thought about it. I feel like I need to add that to one of my playlists because that is a good song. And good thing you started singing it because you almost hit the buzzer on that.
I'm telling
one.
Well, because I could feel it in my body and I was like, you are not, we're going to get this. I'm like, you know the name of your favorite song. Come on.
Okay. What is your favorite movie? Go.
Ooh, okay. This is like such a silly one. Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. Have you ever seen this one? It's so silly, but I don't know what it is.
That's from the 90s?
Yes.
Is that right?
With Christina Applegate. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even tell you how many times I've seen it. I think it needs to be made into a musical. I actually think they came up. I don't know if it ever ended up happening, but I remember actually reading an article or was it becoming a musical. They were working on it, something. But it's so campy, and I don't know why I love it so much. I think it's nostalgia. Like I grew up with this. I have like many more that I could think of. Like First Wives Club is a good one. But Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. It's fun and silly.
My ultimate favorite movie, like top 3, is definitely Sister Act 2.
Yes, with Lauryn Hill.
Yes, I know all the words. I know
yes.
Like, don't let me break out the choreo.
No. Yes, that was like my middle school days. Honestly, graduated with 8th grade show choir. We did like a whole medley of Sister Act 2. So fun. Yeah.
I would have tried out for that one.
Yeah.
Okay. What is your favorite activity to do to relax? Go.
Oh, the beach. I just did it yesterday. And just go to the beach, sit on a chair, feet in the sand. Like I like to get as close to the ocean as possible. Like I'm not one of those people that's like get in the back. Like no. Excuse me, clawing my way through to the front. and I want then I want the waves like crashing on my feet. Oh, it's like instant. Like yesterday I was feeling so stressed and I went to the beach and it was like nothing mattered. That's how like quickly it helps me.
Yeah. It really helps to put things into perspective because I know I don't live in a beachy area, so jealousy, Tal.
Sorry.
In a way, she definitely lives in Miami. But whenever I visit a beach, like I like to just sit and sit. We still love you. We're living vicariously through you. I like to sit and like listen to the ocean, and it really puts things into perspective as how like small we are in this big world because it's like that stretches like as far as you can see, and then it gets really dark out there. And if you've ever been on a cruise ship, oh my goodness, scary city. But I mean, just enjoying the moment, really understanding. Oh, okay. What is your favorite place to travel to specifically? Go.
Oh, Italy. And if I have to pick a city, I guess I'll pick Florence. But you could put me anywhere in Italy. I'd be very happy. I've been a few times and I just love it. The culture, the food. I mean, the food. And then it's just so damn gorgeous. Like it's just so beautiful. It's like a painting. So yeah, I could live there actually. Yeah.
Oh, nice. I have not been there, so I can't confirm what you're saying just quite yet, but I plan to travel everywhere. So you see my travel map? I love it.
Yes.
I love it.
Do you have a place in mind for like your next place that you're going to? Or if you could go anywhere?
Well, I am going to Thailand in December. So I'm hosting a self-care retreat in Thailand. And listen, not sage and patchouli sit in dirt. Like that's not my idea of self-care. No offense to those. Like I know that works for a lot, but my self-care retreats are very luxurious. Like we got AC rooms. Like we sit outside at the beach and stuff. Like everything's VIP. Jacuzzi on the balcony. Like
yes, first class. I'm into it.
Yes, yes. Okay, one more. I think you would have something for this one.
Okay.
So, what is your favorite joke? Go.
Oh my gosh. Ugh, now you put me on the spot, and I'm so bad at jokes. Like, you don't even know. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna not get this because I really can't even. My favorite joke. I've just never been one of the, yeah, I failed. I have never been one of those people, and you would think, like, as an actor, like, I've never been one of those people that has, like, a joke in their back pocket, or I've just never been, yeah. And it's not that I don't like comedy, I do.
That was my line of thinking.
Yeah.
That was my line of thinking. I was like, okay, acting.
She's going to have it. I know. Yeah, no. I mean, I can improvise, but to being like, tell me your favorite joke. I'm like, I don't know. It's not coming to me. I still can't even think about it. I'm not even on the clock. I'm going to have to like email you later. So, like, I'll remember. Yeah.
I want to know. As a result of that, you have to share like what is a hilariously funny story or an embarrassing story that we would think is funny, as long as it's like universally funny, because it's not one of those stories where it was like no one laughs but you, like you had to be there type of thing.
Oh shoot, you're like really putting me on the spot. Okay, I think this is fun. I think this is very embarrassing. Okay, so I was in my NYU days. We had an acting teacher, and she used to play this game with us, like warm us up, and it would be called word association. And so someone says a word, and then you have to say a word that correlates to that, right? So like if someone said apple, you maybe say banana. And so she had this accent, and so she said something and she just actually stopped us because she was like, I really need you guys to think, because you guys are just saying words that have nothing to do with what is going on here. I need you to be present. She just like gave us like whole lecture. So I was like, I was in it to win it. But then she like threw out a word at me and I couldn't like quite understand what she was saying. So I thought she said hanger or something, but that's not what she said. And so she said hanger, and I was like Macy's, like, and I don't know why that even came to my head, but that's not even what she said. And I just remember just the death stare. And like, after I figured out, and now I can't even think of what is the word that she said, because this would make this funny. But when I remember like the time when I figured out later what she said, I like wanted, like, I was like, can the ground just open up and I just like fall in, because she just gave us this lecture and I really wanted to be intentional about it. And I just completely messed up the game. And like all of my classmates, like they were super sweet, but they were just kind of like looking at me like, what did you just, where did that even, Macy's? Like what? Yeah. Fun times.
We appreciate your embarrassing story, and you're trusting us, you being vulnerable to share your embarrassing story. Thank you.
Only for you. You're welcome.
I thought you were going to say something like, someone said penis, and then, or they thought they said penis.
Yes,
it was a misheard word. Somebody shouted out Katrina.
Next time, I'm gonna switch the story, and I'm gonna use that.
Really, they were saying peanuts, not penis.
Oh, I know what she said. She said Iraq, but I thought she said a rack, like a rack of clothes. So that Macy's made sense, but she said Iraq. So like obviously the thing would be like war. That would be the word to say, but I wouldn't have said Macy's. Like I like that makes it right. Like the death stare, because she was probably like, what an idiot.
Well, we love you, lovely Tal. We love you.
Thank you.
Idiot to us. Okay. So thank you for playing our game, First Class Favorite Things. It's always lots of fun to have those laughs there. And listen, First Class family, make sure that you click the link and subscribe to our private Patreon community, because guess what? You will get access to our First Class Favorite Things list that has our reading list, our song list, our favorite places to travel, and because we prioritize self-care on this show, our relaxing activities. You might be like, I need something new to do for my self-care. Go to your First Class Favorite Things and browse. pals. Okay. So again, you will get access to our first class favorite things list, bonus videos from our phenomenal guests, transcripts, resources, and so much more. So again, join our private Patreon family. And meanwhile, let's hop back into this discussion. So if you're new to the First Class Life show, First Class Life is actually an acronym that stands for all of the different characteristics and skills that you want to embody into your lifestyle to be able to create a first class life. So if you want to know what that acronym stands for, you can do one of two things. Either one, go back and listen to the very first episode of the First Class Life show where I break each of those factors down. Or two, head to firstclasslifeshop.com and buy the book, First Class Life, okay? Meanwhile, Tal, which key factor of first class life do you resonate with the most?
Self-worth. I mean, I feel like that's my life's work right now. So self-worth is what I'm teaching women, right? And it's something that I've had to work on so hard in my life to get to this place of, accepting me and knowing my value. And I think it's just so important. I think it's just important for the way that we live, the way that we do relationships, the way that we do business, the way that we do friendships, the way that we do family. Self-worth.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Now, we would like to know, how do you impact the world as a leader today? Tell us.
Yeah. So as a breakup recovery coach, I work primarily with women who are going through a breakup or a divorce or separation, specifically through my group coaching program, the Breakup To Badass Formula. I help you let go of your ex. I teach you how to learn how to love the F out of yourself and then be ready for your best relationship yet. And there's also ways to work with me privately if it feels too vulnerable for you to work amongst other women. And you can find me on Instagram at the Tal Yardeni. If you have a specific question about something that you're going through in terms of a breakup, feel free to reach out. I always get back to you. And then this should be in the show notes, but I've included my free guide, the 4 ways to move through heartbreak. And so that'll be really helpful. It's really easy, tangible steps. This is a really hard time. My heart goes out to you. I've been there. I've been you. So I know how hard it is. And so these 4 steps are really going to help catapult you and move you forward as you navigate.
Thank you for sharing that. And again, that was the Tal Yardeni. So Tal, Tal Yardeni, Yardeni. And we will have all of those links in the show notes. And so you mentioned a few there. Is there any place else that we can reach you, connect you on these internet streets?
Instagram's the best way. It's where I'm most active.
So the Tal Yardeni, make sure you connect, make sure you click the link and get that free guide, okay? Because it's going to be so helpful in helping you to recover, all right? We got the breakup recovery excerpt right here with us. And thank you for dropping all of those gems and helping us in our relationships, in all of our relationships, intimate and platonic. We truly appreciate you, Tal. And thank you, First Class family, for tuning in this past hour with us. We know you could be doing anything in the world, but you have spent your time here tuned in, and we greatly appreciate that. So don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, share, do all the things, and come back next week for another episode of the First Class Life Show, helping you to maximize your impact and create your first class life full of purpose, fulfillment, and happiness. Bye. Unfortunately, all good things must come to an end. But please be sure to subscribe to the First Class Life Show. And don't forget to rate, leave a review, and join our private community so that we can continue to provide you with great personal development conversations to help you maximize your impact while creating a life full of purpose, fulfillment, and happiness. You deserve it.